That's around the area of data protection and several other aspects of law involved in it. So I'll be touching these three things: landlord and tenancy, some of the things that you should note. I'm touching on when you encounter the police, some of the things that you should note, and also data protection. Then I went for purpose of questioning. I will entertain questions that are outside these things that I'm going to discuss ordinarily. So I'm going to proceed now. Now, when it comes to landlord and tenancy, I'm going to speak from the side of the landlord and also from the side of the tenant. Now, firstly, when you are getting into a tenancy agreement or a landlord tenancy agreement, as the case may be, always try as much as possible to have your agreement in writing. There are a lot of persons who don't have their agreement in writing, and it's very detrimental, because at the end of the day, you find yourself in a situation where, because many times when it comes to landlord and tenancy relationship, the tenant is usually at the weaker point. Yes. But because the landlord is the owner of the land, and you know the way some landlords can be very brutal when it comes to ejecting tenants from their properties. Tenants, but many of you don't know, many Nigerians do not know. So now, when it comes to landlord tenancy, primary thing that I'm going to tell you, number one, always have your agreement in writing. It is very, very important. Your year of the duration of the tenancy, the amount you are paying, even, for example, if the tenancy amount is to be increased, there is a procedure for that. There's a procedure for every of these things. So now, when it comes to landlord tenancy, the first thing I will tell you, always try to have it in writing. Now, in a situation where your tenancy has expired, okay, let me speak from the side of the landlord. I'm assuming you are the landlord and you own the property, and your tenant, the tenant who is in your property, his tenancy has expired, or you want him out. There are ways you can do this. Number one thing is that you should never tend to go with self-help. Self-help is something that is prohibited. And secondly, if you go with self-help, if the tenant is a person that is very legally aware, he can have actions against you and even make money from you by suing you to court and some other means. So now, if you are a landlord and you have a tenant in your property, I want to eject that tenant, there are several things you can do. Some of you know this already. For example, you serve the tenant notice to quit. After serving the tenant notice to quit, some people don't know that there's something called notice of owner's intention to recover possession. You must serve this on the tenant too. So maybe you serve your notice to quit on the tenant, and then notice to quit, you have told the tenant that is to pack by the 31st of October. Now, 31st of October has reached, that tenant has not left, which means his notice of quit has expired. You don't just go ahead to tell the tenant to leave, or you force him out to leave. What you do next as the landlord is to serve on that tenant what is called notice of owner's intention to recover possession. This is a 7 days notice that you give to the tenant. It's like the final warning. It's 7 days. You give to the tenants that you are telling the tenants that the tenant should leave, being that the notice to quit has expired. Now, in the situation where you've done this and the tenant still fails, fine. The tenant still fails. You don't still go ahead to eject the tenant by yourself. So there are some landlords who do this. Now, like I said earlier, if the tenant is someone who is legally aware, particularly when it comes to those big transactions, those big commercial transactions, the tenant can actually get money from you, despite the fact that you are the landlord. So now, after you've served your notice to quit, you've served your notice of owner's intention to recover possession, what you have to do next ordinarily is to simply, of course, while you are doing this, I will expect that you have a lawyer. But in a situation where you don't have a lawyer, what you have to do next is simply for you to apply to either the magistrate court or the high court in your state, as the case may be, so that you tell the court that you have served this tenant's notice to quit. You have also served this tenant's notice of owner's intention to recover possession. Yet, this tenant is persistent in staying in your property. At that point, my lord or your worship, as the case may be, if it's magistrate or high court, would then force the tenant out of the premises. It's only the court that can force the tenant out of your premises. This is why I'm going to tell you. For example, maybe as the landlord, you have served the tenant notice to quit and the other one, the notice of owner's intention to recover possession, and you go ahead by yourself to force the tenant out of the property. Maybe you go and you padlock the property of the tenant. That's called that's called trespass. It's called trespass because when in law, just take this. I will not go into nitty. Just take this. In law, a person can grant an action in trespass based on possession. Possession is different from ownership. When you as the landlord give your property to someone to occupy as a tenant, you have given that person possession. And one of the rights of a tenant is the right to quiet possession. So, for example, you now take a padlock, you now go to the tenant's property, you now padlock it. the tenant can sue you for trespass. Why? Because you are continuing to self-help. The law frowns at self-help. So never try to use self-help. So ordinarily, as the landlord, you serve a notice to quit, owner's intention to recover possession. Thereafter, you proceed to a magistrate court that these days it doesn't take time. It's expedited. That's why we have courts we have what's known as small claims, matters that are small claims that are undisputed. In 1 month or even weeks, you are done. So once you do this, that's the proper way to eject the tenant out of your property. Now, that's from the side of the law. If you are a tenant who is living in the property, the landlord cannot just come and eject you. Know this. Last week, one of my friend, although not a very close friend, her mother who stays in Lagos will serve a notice to quit, and the owner of the property is trying to eject them from the property, despite the fact that landlord has not served them the notice of owner's intention to recover possession. And what I simply told her was that she should not bother. She should just be smiling, because they have not done what is proper to be done in accordance with the law. So if you are the tenant, you are entitled, for example, the landlord for example, you have paid. Number one thing is, once you have paid your tenancy rate, you are expected to live in that property for the duration that has been agreed. If it's a 1-year tenancy, or if it's a 1-year duration, 6 months, or as the case may be, you are expected to live for that particular period. But in a situation where you have to leave that property, you must be served properly a notice to quit, and not only notice of quit, you must be served also a notice of owner's intention to recover possession. So this must be served on you. When in a situation where this is not served on you, you can properly you can still stay in that property. Although you should, I'm come to a point where I'm going to talk about means profit. You can still stay in that property. So from the tenant perspective, you are entitled to notice to quit, and you're also entitled to notice of owner's intention to recover possession. You must note these things. Now, ordinarily, as a tenant, these are some of your rights. You have a right to quiet enjoyment of the property. You have a right to receive valid notice before you are evicted from property. And also, you also have a right as a tenant. Your property must be safe and habitable. These are some of the rights that you have. The law has given you. For example, if those of you stay in Lagos State, there's something we call the Tenancy Law of Lagos 2011. If you type it on Google, you are going to see it. Tenancy Law of Lagos 2011. This spells out all your rights as a tenant. So these are the things that you must note. So I have talked about how a landlord, or if you are a tenant, depending on the situation you are, how you can be properly ejected from the property that you stayed in. Now, for example, if you are a yearly tenant, if you are the tenant who pays yearly, you are entitled to 6 months notice to quit. And now I can't go into the nitty-gritty of this, but just know that if for example you used to pay 1st of January and your tenancy expires in December, if they want to eject you from that property, you are entitled to 6 months for you to be able to look for another property for you to park before you can park. So you're entitled to 6 months. If you are a monthly tenant, you're entitled to 1 month's notice. If you are a weekly tenant, you are entitled to 1 week's notice. Remember, I said that after you've been served notice to quit and notice have expired and you are still on that property, you are entitled to a notice of owner's intention to recover possession. This simply means that the owner is now willing to recover possession, and this is 7 days. It will give you 7 days after the expiration of the notice to quit that you have to park. So that's 7 days we served on you. It's called notice of owner's intention to recover possession. So this basically some of the basic things we can know in respect to landlord and tenancy. Now, there are a lot of things that can be said in respect when it comes to landlord and tenancy, but for the purpose of this session and for the purpose of not wasting time or not talking too much, this is something you should note. Then I'll proceed and discuss to you some of the things that you should note when you encounter the police. Now, many of us encounter the police on our daily activities. You can be driving and the police will stop you. It's fine, that's proper. The police have the right to stop you. Don't let anybody tell you that police does not have the right to stop you. Don't let anybody tell you that the police have the right to stop you. Why? Because they are public officers who have been given the right to stop you and ask you questions. However, there are limits to that. Now, so let me give you an instance. Maybe you are driving and the police stops you, fine, you stop. And the moment you stop, you are entitled to ask the police officer or whoever is stopping you, what is his name, the station where he is stationed, and you have the right to ask him for his ID card. But do this respectfully. What I notice is that some people don't do this respectfully. You see some people who are, the moment the police stop them, they want to start fighting with the police. No, now, even you as a human being, if assume you as a human being who is not even a policeman or who is not a policewoman, if someone starts to talk to you rudely, won't you be angry? Ordinarily, you'll be angry. It is natural. So, in a situation where you are stopped by the police, respectfully ask the policeman, please, what is your name? It's your right. It's your right to do this. You can ask him to show you his ID card. You are entitled, and he himself is mandated to show you his ID card. So once you do this, you can then ask him the reason for why he's stopping you. Then when you ask him for the reason why he's stopping you, the police will not tell you why he has stopped you. So and so and so and so and so. So it depends on the circumstance. There are several reasons why it could stop you. There are several reasons why it could stop you. Now let me talk about searches. Now the police does generally, in law, we have what we call general positions of the law, and to every law there's an exception. Now, generally, the police have the right to stop you, but the police does not have the right to search you except in certain circumstances, and they must give you a reason. Now, for example, the police want to search your house. Whoever is searching your house must have a search warrant that have been issued by a magistrate or a high court judge. This is the provision of the law. If you read the Administration of Criminal Justice Law, although you are not supposed to, you are as a person who may not be in the legal field, you may not be aware of this. But a policeman or law enforcement officer cannot just come to your house and tell you he wants to search your house. No, the law does not allow that. He must have a search warrant. Now, also, if they stop you on the road, the police cannot just take your phone and search your phone. However, if he tells you that he's suspecting something and he wants to search you, fine. Then you tell him, you have the right to ask him, why does he want to search your phone, and what is he suspecting that he wants to search your phone for? If he doesn't tell you this, it is your right to not allow him to search your phone. And if he wants to take you to the station, fine. Don't be scared of going to police. Don't be scared of going to their station. As far you have a lawyer or a counsel, or you know a lawyer, a counsel, do not be scared. I'm going to come to the other side. There's the part of bail. So now, generally, by virtue of Section 37 of the Nigerian Constitution, you have a right to privacy, which constitutes your communication and your private life. That's the general position of the law. However, in the situation where the police suspects that maybe you may be into fraud or you may be into this or blah, they could have numerous reasons, and he say he wants to search your phone, you can ask him, why does he want to search your phone and what does he suspect? If he gives you this, fine, you allow him to search you. Now, searching your phone does not mean he will seize your phone. No, the police cannot seize your property. He cannot do that. But I am telling you that in a situation where he has given you, because the law gives the law enforcement agencies like the police, where they suspect that a person has committed crime, the right for them to search that person. So they can search your phone in that respect. But they must give you the reason why they want to search your phone. They cannot just arbitrarily carry your phone and start searching. So that's for that. Now, in a situation where they want to arrest you, maybe you encounter the police and they want to arrest you, you have the right to ask the policeman why he wants to arrest you. Secondly, you as an individual has the right to remain silent and not talk. In fact, police are expected to tell you at the point of arrest that you have the right not to say anything, and anything you say will be used against you in court. Yes, that's your right. They are supposed to tell you this. But some policemen in Nigeria are not trained to that extent. Although many of them may do that, but majority of them, I don't know why. But I want to let you know that in a situation where you have the right to be silent. Now, this is the catch. In a situation where they arrest you and you start talking, maybe you have not consulted your lawyer, because sometimes, let me tell you, maybe you may have even committed a crime. Do you know it is your right not to state that you have committed a crime? It is your right not to state that. There's something called right to not incriminate yourself. You have a right to that. But now, in a situation where you have been arrested, you have the right to remain silent until you speak with your lawyer or with your counsel. So in a situation where you've not done that, tell the policeman that you have nothing to say and you wish to exercise the right to remain silent until you've spoken to your lawyer or your counsel. Now, when you have spoken to your lawyer, your counsel, and your lawyer is not around, that's when you can now begin to talk. Because the mistake that some of you make, or majority of persons make, for example, if you read case laws, there's something called case law, legal precedent. These are decisions that have been made by the court. You will see several situations where persons who have been arrested will go ahead to start making confessional statements. And in that confessional statements, Some of them are forced to make it, or they go ahead to say things that they ought not to say when they've never consulted their lawyer. That's why it is generally advisable. If you have not consulted with your lawyer or your counsel and you are arrested, tell the police, tell whoever has arrested you that you wish to remain silent until you consult your lawyer. Then I also wish to let you know that maybe the police comes to your house and they are looking for someone and they don't find that person. The police cannot arrest you in lieu of that person. What I mean is that the police cannot, because they don't find, maybe they're looking for Mr. John and they can't find Mr. John. Then you is Mr. Peter, they will not arrest you. No, the law frowns at that. The law frowns at that. If you read the Administration of Criminal Justice Law, you are going to see there. It is there. It is clearly written. The Administration of Criminal Justice Law, for example, the one of Lagos State was made in the one that applies to Federal Capital Territory was made in 2015. Lagos State is 2016. There are provisions there that say that you cannot be arrested in lieu of another person. You cannot be arrested when they are looking for someone else and they don't find that person. The police cannot go ahead to arrest you. Now, that cannot be that is prohibited by our law. So, when you encounter the police, let me round off this aspect. When you encounter the police, try as much as possible to be respectful. Ask the policeman his name. You have the right to ask him for his ID card to show you his ID card. And also, in a situation where maybe in your house they come to search your house, if they don't show you a search warrant, don't allow them to search your house. Bring to the knowledge of your neighbors that so and so have come to. You can call maybe a friend or so that they want to search your house and you're asking for warrants. The purpose of you calling neighbors is just for you to have emotional support and physical support present. So in a situation where they can't show you a search warrant, they can't search your property. And also if you want to search your phone, maybe on the highway, it's your right to ask for why they want to search your phone. And they have to give you reasons why. They have to give you suspicious reasons why. Now, secondly, in everything I've said, while you are doing these things, you must also apply common sense. Maybe, for example, you are traveling, you're in a lonely road, and you are the only one, and there are 4 policemen there. These things you may not have to start maybe asking them, start exercising your rights in such a way that you may put yourself in danger, or maybe you may irritate them. So that's why it's in everything. That the law itself, law is different. The way law is in theory may not be as it is in practice. For example, maybe they stop you in a public place and they're trying to search you. Of course, you have people who are around. You can comfortably ask them, please, what is your name? Show me your ID card. If you don't do that, it's your right. If they don't do that, you're illegal. If at the end of the day you go to court, you see that you are right, and they're entitled to pay you damages. So these are some of the things that you should know whenever you encounter the police. And secondly, if you are arrested, you are not, except you have committed a capital offense, by no means should you stay in the police station for more than 48 hours. In fact, the law prescribed, Section 35 of the Constitution prescribed 1 day. So, for example, they arrest you today. You are not, if there's a court close by, you're not supposed to stay in the police station for more than 24 hours. But the law now says that if there's no court close by within 40-kilometer radius, by no means should you stay in that police station for more than 48 hours, except it's a capital offense. A capital offense may not be granted bail. So this is bringing me to bail. When it comes to bail, bail is free. Bail, you don't sell bail. That's the reason why some of you give money to the police when you want to get bail, because you are impatient. Or maybe you've not consulted the lawyer. There's no lawyer who has been trained and who knows what he's doing. We pay for bail. Bail is free. Bail is free. We have 2 types of bail. We have the bail issued by court, and we have the bail issued by the police. When you have not been charged to court, it's the bail issued by police that applies, and the bail that is issued by police is free. You are entitled to that. Section 35 of the Constitution on the right to liberty is very clear on that. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That's why you need to be legally aware, and you need to also have a lawyer or a counsel when this thing arises. So just note this. So I have talked about the police, and I know that some of you may have questions. Let me just round off by looking at data protection, because I said I'm going to talk about data protection. Now, when data protection simply means the right for you to have your data protected. So when we're talking about data privacy, for example, we look at Section 37 of the Constitution that talks about your right to privacy. Data protection is an offshoot of it. So data privacy means your personal information must not be shared or used wrongly. That's data privacy. So it's also an offshoot of data protection, is an offshoot of data privacy, because data protection means that, for example, maybe local man, yes, maybe local man is collecting, maybe he has a website, he runs a, no, maybe not a website, maybe local man is the owner of Facebook. I register with Facebook, and local man runs Facebook. Local man has an obligation not to give out the information that you've given to him, or not to sell that information. So for some of you that have YouTube accounts, YouTube cannot give out your email address randomly to any person. If they do this, you can sue them because they've breached your data. Data simply means something that can identify you. You have the right to be alone. The right to be alone is a right that has been given by law. The right to be alone. So you must, those organizations must protect your data. So now some of the data that needs to be protected are your full names, your address, where you live, your email, your phone numbers, your BVN, your NI. These things cannot be given out just like that. So they must be protected. They must be protected. And secondly, before any of these organizations can give out your information, you must give consent to them. So you are entitled to your data and for it to be protected. But in a situation where it needs to be given out, you must consent to it being given out. That's where data protection comes into play. So data protection, you have the right to have your data secured and protected by whoever you've given it to. So if you're giving your data to any government agency or any organization, they are not to release your data to a third party without your consent. In a situation where they do this, you can sue them for damages. And secondly, you can write to them to retract whatever they've done. This is your right. It's not, I'm not speaking theory. This is the right I've given to you by Data Protection Act of 2023. So these are the things you must know. So some of the right as a data subject is that you have the right to know why and how your data is being used. Also, in a situation where you submit your data to an organization and they make a mistake, you have the right to tell them to correct that information. You also have the right to tell an organization that you've given your data to delete that data. You have these rights. So these are the things that you must know in respect to data protection. And in a situation where any of your rights are breached, of course, you know what to do. So I have spoken about landlord and tenancy, where I clarify your rights. I've spoken about the police. We have also clarified your rights, and I've spoken about data protection. So I think at this point I have spoken on the things which I have to do, which I wrote down to speak about the rest of this legal sensitization. So local man, I think I have done justice to this session. And if there are questions, I think we can entertain questions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is an enlightening session. I think I learned a thing or two. Even though what I have been hearing you say, especially as regards Nigerian police, well, thank God you added a statement that maybe they use common sense. But thank you very much. And I want to believe the participants here tonight, they would have learned a thing or two. Before we go into the questions, yes, please, if you have questions, you can just use the raise hand symbol. Then I'll just pick and choose maybe randomly. So before we go, I think I have a question myself. You mentioned under the tenancy talk that as tenant, we have for annual tenant, of course, that we are entitled to 6 months notice to quit. 6 months. Well, I've actually been hearing 3 months, and this is the first. Now, even the 3 months, I've seen situations where landlord just tell people to go, especially people who are owing them, and there's nothing like processes of the law court. So do we say this is due to the ignorance of the tenants? And if yes, that's number one. If yes, number two, how do they address it? Saying that most of these tenants, their number one problem is money. So how do you secure legal services when you are really not that financially buoyant. I don't know if my question is clear. That's number one. Secondly,
Yeah. Okay.
as an average Nigerian, now I want to believe, based on the way you've been talking, you said your lawyer, you keep mentioning your lawyer, your lawyer, your lawyer. So it means we should really have legal counsel, even as private individuals. Now, what are the processes involved, and how much would this cost on average, like annual cost to have a legal representative, just in case you need their services, or if you don't have one, let's say get into police issue, for example, how do I get a lawyer at that point in time to help oversee my case? I don't know if you understand my questions.
Yeah, yes, I understand the question. You have asked two questions now.
Yeah.
All right. Are you done?
Yes, please. So I'll give
Okay.
others the
All
opportunity
right.
to.
All right. All right. Maybe I should answer yours, then we proceed. I should just do them one after the other.
Will you remember them?
You see?
Will you remember the questions?
No, I wanted to, like, for example, you've asked a question, I want to answer you, then we proceed to the next person.
Yes, please. That's what I want you to do.
All right. So now, okay, you've asked two questions. The first one is in respect to situations where may sometimes some landlords just tell you to leave without maybe even serving you notices. And secondly, without even serving notices, and the tenant himself or herself may be indigent in the sense that the tenant may not be able to afford a lawyer to come in or defend. Now, we have the legal aid. Can we have something called legal aid? Legal aid in Nigeria. In fact, there's a law specifically called Legal Aid Act. Now, the legal aid is for persons who are indigent. For example, it's just that I think a lot of, like you said, a lot of persons don't know. For example, I'm living in a house and my right is to be breached by the landlord, or I am being told to leave, particularly in respect of maybe I'm paying maybe 6 months. I pay half yearly always or yearly, and I stay in that property, and suddenly the landlord just wakes up and tell me to leave, and I'm indigent.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you now.
All right, all right. So now I was saying that we have legal aid. The legal aid is an organization, is a federal government agency that works in line with the Nigerian Bar Association and with lawyers. It was established by the federal government. Now, legal aid stands, they help and represent indigent persons. So in a situation where I'm living and I'm living in a property and the landlord just wakes up in the morning and tells me to leave, not following due process, I can go to that legal aid and tell them my problem, and also I tell them that I do not have money.
Are you there? Or is it just me?
Yeah, we are here. We are here.
Miss Barrister Chima, are you there? Oh no. I think maybe he has some network issues. So please, let's just wait a bit more for him. Okay, he's offline. Maybe we'll try and join again.
All right, I think I was having a bit of network issue, but am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
All right, thank you. I don't network just so in a situation I was talking about the legal aid. So generally, the legal aid, I will send you a link to their website, and also they have offices in every state. So if you are indigent and you can't afford to, your right is being breached, and you can't afford to get, you have spoken with the lawyer, and the lawyer is telling you something exorbitant, and you don't have the money to fund, the legal expense, legal aid is going to represent you for free. In fact, the legal aid works hand in hand with the organization works hand in hand with the Nigerian Bar Association, and there are lawyers who have been stationed to assist in this respect. So when I was even a student then, at the University of Benin, I was the chairman of the law clinic. We represented several persons who were indigent and could not afford lawyers in court. We represent them. Whenever they come, we link them to lawyers who work with legal aid. So legal aid is there. It's just that a lot of people don't know, and this is generally due to ignorance. So people are not. That's why sensitizations like this are very important. Then, secondly, your question is in respect to cost to get a lawyer. That's the second question. Well, when it comes to getting a lawyer, it depends on the law. For example, if you are going for a senior advocate of Nigeria, you are expectedly going to pay more than if you are going for maybe a lawyer who is like 3 years at the bar or 5 years at the bar. Now, the difference is not that maybe the one who is 3 years at the bar does not have the knowledge. No, that's not the difference. The difference is just that the senior advocate has spent more time at the bar, maybe like 15, 20 years compared to the other one. So, expectedly, he will have his fee you have his fee higher. But generally, maybe you are dealing with maybe in an issue of tenancy. It depends on circumstance. Generally, most lawyers will charge you around 300,000 for 5. Now it depends, and it also depends on where you live. The lawyer who stays in Lagos State will charge differently from a lawyer who stays in Benin, or who stays in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, or who stays in the Ebonyi State. So it differs. And there's no fixed fee that lawyers charge. That lawyers charge. It just depends on the lawyer. And if the lawyer tells you a fee, you also can tell him what you can afford. If you're in a situation where you can't afford the lawyer's fee, I spoke about earlier of the Legal Aid Council. The Legal Aid Council. Legal Aid Council is an organization that can help you if you're indigent and you can't afford a lawyer.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, I hope at the end of this session, maybe you can help us with the link, just in case we have it.
Yes, I'll do that.
And I believe you've been using the word indigent. It means someone who is not financially able to cover for legal fees, right?
Yes.
All right. So please, anyone kindly indicate by the raising of hands. I don't know. Bright Eric, I've seen your hand raised. Is that a mistake or not? Let's unmute you and see. If I've just unmuted you, you can ask your question, please.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you so much, Barrister. I mean, it's been a very enlightening session, much more than we even bargained for. Thank you so much. So I was just going to ask the other side of local man's question. So he asked in perspective of the tenants. What about for landlord? Because I knew that there was a particular case of my friend's husband's property. They had a tenant there that stopped paying, and then for like, I think over 2 years, they've served the notice to quit. I think it was an annual tenant or so. He still didn't go out. And then after 2 years, whatever, all the old thing, they went back and forth to court, nothing changed. So they will tell him to come, he won't come. Afterwards, they will show up. It was just postponed till the man had to pay him to leave. Please, just take this money and leave my property. I need it. So I was just wondering how does the law protect property owners too in cases like that?
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think I've encountered such situation before. And now, secondly, in a situation where you serve a notice to quit, because you have served a notice to quit to a particular tenant, and tenant does not leave, does not mean that the moment the period is occupied, it's not still going to pay. And secondly, I don't know. I have to say this. I don't know the circumstance of. I don't know all the circumstance involving in the scenario you just painted. But generally, in a situation where you've served notice to quit, you serve notice of owner's intention to recover possession, and the tenant does not leave, these are the ways the law protects you, because you asked me how does law protect property owners. These are the law protects. Number one, the law can say if that tenant has properties, the law, your worship in a magistrate court or my lord in a high court can make an order that the property of that tenant be sold and be used to recompense the period where he's still in that in the period where he has stayed in that property and he has not paid. If you go to customary court or magistrate court or even high court, you would have noticed that you see sometimes in places where they place properties, you see properties, you see chairs, you see beds. Those are orders that have been given. Maybe the tenants could not pay and he has been persistent. They have told him to leave. He doesn't want to leave. The court will make an order that all his property should be his fridge, television. They'll be taken and brought to the court and they'll be given at auction. They'll be sold, and the whatever is recovered from the selling will be paid to the landlord. This is one of the ways the law protects you. Secondly, there's something called means profit. It's spelled MESNE. MESN. It's called mean profit. It means that, for example, maybe you are the landlord and the tenant. You serve me notice to quit, and I don't leave. I still stay in that property, and we are going to court. Although, like I said, when I was speaking, I said that the duration you spend in court now and the duration you spend in court about 3 years or 4 or 5 years ago is no longer the same. Now the court is a bit more speedy because we now have a lot of cases these days. Most times don't reach the court because of arbitration, mediation, and the rest. What we refer to as ADR, alternative dispute resolution. So, and secondly, our rules of court are now quite faster. They are quite faster. So then the situation where you are going to court with that tenant back and forth, the period where that tenant is still staying in that property, that period, despite the fact that his tenancy has expired, he's still going to pay you until he leaves. Until he leaves from that property. It's called means profit. And your lawyer ordinarily, when you sue, is supposed to claim for that. If your lawyer does not claim for that, you should tell him to claim for means profits. I'm spelled again, MESNE, profit, mean profit. If you type it on Google, you are going to see it. So these two ways are the ways in which the law protects you. Number one, the property of that, after the court has found in your favor, the property of that tenant will be seized and can be auctioned, and whatever is realized will be given to you. We used to recompense the fee. We used to recompense the period stayed in your property. And secondly, the period stayed in that property, despite the back and forth in court, he's going to still pay for that period until he leaves. So these are the two ways that the law protects you. I don't know. I hope you get what I've just said.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. So also, aside recouping the money back, so if they take some of his property, but it still did not move out, can the landlord? Is there any court order or anything that makes them like they can forcefully eject him away from the property so that they can make use of it for other things? Does that work in the law?
So if you go to court and the court tells him to leave, there's no way he won't leave. Do you know the consequence of that? Do you know that I've heard of contempt before? If a court gives an order, the court tells, maybe you're a tenant, the court tells you to leave the said property, the court have found in favor of the landlord, and the court tells you as a tenant to leave the property, that you don't leave. That's called contempt of court. And contempt of court goes with imprisonment. It goes with imprisonment. So that's why I was saying that it depends. Or many times it depends. That's why you should always strive to get a lawyer that knows what he is doing. If you get a lawyer that knows what he's doing, you won't suffer such issues. Now, like I said earlier, I don't know the whole circumstance of that situation. But in a situation where a court has given order, and in a situation where the court has given order and the tenant fails to obey that order, no, that's contempt now. The contempt is a criminal offense in Nigeria. Contempt is a criminal offense in Nigeria. The person can go to prison for 6 months, 3 months. It depends on the case. But if a court gives an order and the tenant fails to leave, the tenant is simply aggravating his own circumstance. So I want to believe that you are clear to what I've said now.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We have to move on from there. Meanwhile, I actually have a question on that. Please just try and answer it in like 10 seconds. In this situation she painted, the landlord clearly is not even interested in the legal proceeding. He just want the tenant out of his house, and then the tenant wouldn't go, and then the landlord is forced to engage legal services and all those things. Now, apart from the fact that if he wins the case, of course, the tenant will have to pay for the means profit you explained. who pays for the legal fee? Can he also ask that the tenant pays for that too, or that will be at the expense of the property owner?
Well, now legal fee depends on the circumstance of the case. It depends on the circumstance. There's something called legal cost. Many times, lawyers we sometimes claim legal costs. That legal cost should be beared by the other party. So it can be claimed. It can be claimed, but whether the court will grant it or not depends on circumstance.
Okay, okay. All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's something I can
There's
claim.
been a name
When you have
I
your
want
other reliefs, among your other reliefs, you can claim it as part of your relief that the legal cost should be beared by the other party.
All right, thank you. So please, there are quite a lot of them raising up hands. So just try maybe 1 minute for your response or 30 seconds, depending on the questions. There has been a name, I can't see him anymore. Konlao, maybe he's gone. So I'm just going to okay, Eric. I mentioned you the other time. Bright Eric, please, if you are here, quickly ask your question. Make it brief. Eric, all right, he's not here. Are you
Can you
there?
hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear you?
Yes, please, if you can be a bit audible.
Okay, I was trying to make an understanding while I was listening to what you were saying.
Bros, talk, may we hear you now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Your maybe is it just me or not? The voice is
Can you
feeble.
hear me now?
I, I,
Can
Okay.
you
I
hear me
can
now?
hear him. I only think maybe he's speaking relaxed and quite not loud. So maybe if you could speak louder, we'll hear you better.
Okay, okay. I was saying, in line with what the speaker said, uh, you should understand that most of us are prospective coppers or serving coppers. All he was saying was in general notice, like as a citizen of Nigeria. But what I want to ask directly is that if as a copper you are serving and you fall into a situation that needs legal backing, does the court give preferential treatment for coppers case at the law court? Is there preferential treatment for coppers?
All right. Generally, there's no preferential treatment because everybody is treated equally. However, if your matter is a fundamental right, if it's a fundamental rights matter, human rights matter, the court give preferential treatment to human rights matter. So in the situation where you are a court member and your human right is being infringed on, for example, if you pick up your constitution now, from section 33 to section 45 contains your rights as a citizen of Nigeria. So if your issue falls around any of that, you get preferential treatment. The court can hear your matter in 24 hours, sometimes even that day. But it doesn't exceed that week. Fundamental rights matters are hastened and are heard speedily. Hope that clarifies you.
All right, thank you. So Okonlawon, you are on the line, please. If you're here, ask your question. I'll move to the next. Okonlawon, okay, he's
Good
not
evening.
here. All right, good evening.
Barrister, thank you for your time and your knowledge. We appreciate you. Uh, I want to ask questions. Since you said you can ask outside what you've talked about, so I had an encounter with one lawyer that was maybe like 3 weeks ago or a month thereabout. So, and the issue was like when I was in school, I was able to be in the SUG, which is the legislative arm of the government. So there I discovered some law that is very, very, very vital for us to put into use even after our NYSC. So I go there with the letterhead that we made this law feasible. So when I got to him, he said that I am impersonating since I'm no longer in the school again. That the patron on the letterhead that I'm trying to impersonate him or trying to implicate him if I thought something happened on that. So I want to know if it is right that after you've been out of school, maybe you've represented anywhere in the government, is it illegal to use that letterhead as far as you got it when you are in school? That's my question, sir.
Yeah, yeah. You shouldn't. If you have left office, you shouldn't be using the letterhead of the said office now. Look at it. It's like this. Goodluck Jonathan has ruled Nigeria, and after leaving Nigeria, he's now still attempting to use the official letterhead of the or the official letterhead of the executive arm of government. So that's impersonation. You shouldn't do that. Rather, once you've left office, you're now an individual person. The moment you step into office, you're a public officer. But the moment you leave that particular office that you're holding, you're no longer a public officer. Hope you understand.
Yes, I understand too. Nelma, you are online. Nelma, you are live, please, if you are here. Nelma,
Yes, can
she's
you hear
not
me now?
here.
Sorry. Can you
Okay?
hear me? Okay,
All
great.
right.
Thank you very much for the session. Please, I wanted you to touch on um contract and employment because I'll give you context. I a company I work for, right? They were actually owing and the back and forth trying to get payments from them. It was very disturbing. So I just wanted to know how best I could have escalated the case. You get to just know how it works, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, when it comes to contracts, particularly respect to employment, although you did specifically tell me the issue you have, but generally, um, maybe it's quite private to you. But let me just tell you some things you need to know. When it comes to contract, what governs contract with your employer is basically your agreement. That's why if so, there must have been an agreement between you and the employer. That's what governs it. Then, secondly, in a situation where you want to sue, the National Industrial Code has jurisdiction, and National Industrial Code usually expedite matters like that. However, if your contract, maybe in respect to your employment, it also borders on human rights. That can be very much expedited, and you but generally just meet it because I didn't get this. Law itself is based on facts. I didn't get the facts. You just told me, what you said is that it deals with contracts of employment and that. But generally, in result to that, maybe you could consult a lawyer, meet a lawyer, and tell the lawyer the specific fact. But generally, when it comes to contract, it's your agreement with your employer that governs. That's why whenever you want to get a job, always read what you're getting into. Always read what you're getting into. Are you cleared, Norma? Are you cleared?
I am. But then what if the contract that you actually signed, right? There's a breach there, and how best you read the agreement, yes, and then the employers are actually going out of what was said
If
in
they are,
the
if they are, if they are, if they are going out of it, then the first thing is to get lawyer to write a letter to them to realign their steps. If they don't realign their steps, then depending on you, may want to sue them. Sometimes litigation is a way of making money. Some people will sue. They did because they want to just. If your employer is breaching the contract and you sue him, you get a lot of money from him. If you have the patience to wait, yeah, you get your money from him. So if they are breaching, whoever breaches the contract is liable, and damages will be granted in your favor against that person.
Okay, thank you. That's clear. Thank you very much.
So I don't know. Yeah, there for that questions. If there are no questions, I think we can call it a day.
Anyone with please?
Another question.
I had a lot of hands the other time, but I can't see them now. All right. It looks like uh no one has any question. Well, that has been very, very, very helpful tonight. Thank you very much, Barrister Chima. We've learned a lot. I personally have learned a lot. Even though most of these things you said are the applicability in my point of view, or like in every other Nigerian's point of view, might be difficult. Take, for example, the part of the police, you telling us I right with the police. I've had quite a few encounters with the police. And if I want to talk, I mean, just simple was police no be human being. At least Nigerian police. So, well, I think I now know where I stand, but then I think you need some kind of influence in the society if you really want to right, or you have a leverage, just like some few people are privileged when they cover police doing things they should not do by video and all of that. But that has been very helpful. So do you have any parting words for us tonight before we call it a night?
All right. So, like everything I've said, one thing I always like to say is that theory itself, many of us went to school. We know very much. It's a common knowledge that theory itself is many times different when it comes to practice. So, you must always apply common sense in whatever you are doing, and at the same time, always try to, like the example I gave. Maybe you are traveling in a lonely road and you come across the police. There are some things you may not want to. Generally, you know it's your right, but for the sake of your own life, which is prior, you may not want to go to the extent of trying to like demand for them. But the situation where you're in a public place, of course, you can demand for them. This is just an example of you applying common sense in whatever you do as a human being, because as we know, theory many times can be different from practice. But not in all. Stay legally aware and trying to know your right, and always try to have a lawyer and always speak with a lawyer before you do many of the things you do. And whatever agreement you get into, try to make sure it is in writing and it's something that you're comfortable with, so that you don't find yourself in years' time trying to spend resources and time on something that you want not to spend resources and time on. So always consult a lawyer and stay legally aware and be safe. Thank you. And also, I
Thank
want to I want to also, I want to also appreciate you, local man, for this for granting your platform, because I approached you and I told you about what I want to do, and you gave me that hand. So I must appreciate it, because without that, I don't think we'll be having this session. So thanks to you and to your platform. At least you're one of the biggest NYC platform we have in Nigeria. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate you. This has been most helpful. Please, you came out to do this, not for any monetary gain, not for any recognition, just because you want to educate people. And you've done that. Even if we are not much that we're here tonight, I believe that for few people, we've learned something. Now, please, okay, let me appreciate you also on behalf of the participants here. I believe they've learned and are most grateful for your help. And maybe this might even create an interest or an urge in them to want to learn more about their rights, to want to know about the legal frameworks in Nigeria, to position themselves well in their daily activities, in their business activities, and also in their personal lives. So let me ask a final question, maybe in a funny way though. Can Chat GPT substitute for a personal legal counsel? Maybe I have a situation and I tell, hey, Chat GPT, I like you are a Nigerian barrister with like 10 years in services. This is my case. And then reference Nigerian laws. What do you think I should do in this instance? Do you think that kind of thing will really work? Thank you.
All right, yeah. To a large extent, yes, ChatGPT can assist you with knowing like the basis of the laws that may apply in a specific situation. But ChatGPT may not have the experience and empathy of a human being. Like the way we understand things are not the way machines understand things. But generally, maybe you want to know like the ingredient of a contract. Now, of course, yes, you can do that to ChatGPT and ChatGPT know. But when it comes to practicalities, maybe for example, you have a deal worth 100 million United States dollars. You want to use ChatGPT, of course, you won't. You don't want to use ChatGPT on that. So you always want to get a lawyer who practices in Nigeria. Then on that thing, I wish to let you know is that when it comes to practice of law in Nigeria, although ChatGPT can assist you generally in knowledge, but ChatGPT cannot practice law, because if you read, we have something called the Legal Practitioners Act, and by Legal Practitioners Act, only a person who has been called to the bar by the Supreme Court of Nigeria and is a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court is entitled to practice law in Nigeria. That's why it's not even possible to have a robot practice law in Nigeria. But when it comes to general knowledge, educational knowledge, of course, ChatGPT can assist you with that. And I do encourage for you to do that sometimes, so that you can at least. It's more of like reading your constitution, but it's more of like reading your constitution. So ChatGPT can assist you. But when it comes to dealing with practicalities, it's advisable to approach a lawyer and let a lawyer guide you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. It's because of this session that just made me think towards the part of ChatGPT. Thanks for letting me know that. Of course, it can be a grand base for getting the knowledge. And I think we have Tunde, he wants to talk. Our time is fast spent, but if he's here, can you just ask your question? Or else we end this call.
Look at man.
Okay?
Uh, question. My
It looks
question
like your
goes
network.
thus. Last,
Okay.
hello, can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
you
can
can
hear
hear
you.
me. All right, all
Yeah.
right. So last month I encountered something terrible because in my department, I'm now a graduate, but in my department there, that was July. So I'm their class governor in my department. So some students they do come to me that okay, bro, I want to run my results. Sure, I understand. Though meanwhile I have some links to all those lecturers. So there's one particular guy that now came to me. So that guy now paid money. He paid 3 times. February, May, April and May. He paid 3 times. So I now send the money to the lecturer. But I use my own personal account to collect the money. But the lecturer told me that I should not send his number to those people that do come to me for all this wrong stuff. So now, after everything, the lecturer now paid me on top of that one guy out of 3 guys. So, but one, the lecturer did not even touch his result at all. So the guy now had 3 carryover. So the guy now called police that, okay, oh, we are going to settle this case in police station. That was July. So when we went to police station, they told me that I don't have that in as much that I use my own personal account, that I don't. Meanwhile, I'm trying to protect the lecturer's name. I did not even make mention of the lecturer's name at all because I bear all the consequences. But the funniest thing about this issue was that day the guy paid 280,000 naira 3 times. He paid it 3 times. But the guy now said that no, I will collect my transport fee here. I will he shall like said everything. So above all, I paid 580,000 naira that day for the guy without showing them receipt. And those police officers also said that they won't release me until I paid bail. That I should
Babe.
pay 90,000 naira for bail. Sure, you understand. But due to that, I don't want my name to be spoiled. I don't want to have, you understand now. So I have to pay the money that day. But after I paid the money, the second day, I was now realizing that what have I done? I supposed not to pay this money. Someone paid 280,000 naira. I repaid the guy with 580,000 naira. And police officer they also collected 90,000 naira for me for bail. So now, after everything, I met with some people and I told them that, okay, I want to call lawyer. Like, I want to drive the case. So in this situation, sir, advice you even give me about the case because till this present movement, I'm still on the case. I don't want it to go like that because I felt like I was cheated about the issue. So in this case, sir, what can you say about this case? And secondly, is it polite to be doing video record in police station if you are right?
Let me answer your second question first. Yes, you can record public officers. Yeah, there's no harm in that. You can record public officers. You can do that. So it is right to do it. Although many times before you enter the police station, they might tell you to drop your phone, so you may not be. But a police officer who is on duty, you can record the music. A police officer is a public officer. A public officer is paid by the money you pay. Is paid by your tax money. So they are working for you. In an ideal society, they are working for you. Those police officers and the rest because they are sponsored by the money you pay as tax. So that's for that. So in a person who is a public officer who is performing his duty, you can record the person. There's no harm in that. Now, in respect to your first question, that one, that one has to do with all these runs and stuff. First of all, will you agree with me that what we are doing is illegal? Let me ask this question first. Will you agree with me?
Though I don't know that it is illegal, but I just feel like in my own perspective, it's just
What
like
you
I'm
are,
helping them.
what you are doing is what we call bribery and corruption. Now, do you agree? I'm not trying to blame
Okay,
you, but I'm trying to get to a point. Do you agree with me?
sure.
Yeah, so that's in law. There's something we call he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Have you heard of it before?
Sure.
He who comes
Because
to
I
equity
study peace and
must
conflict.
so in a situation like this, if you if you sue to court, the court will likely not interfere in your situation. I would have loved to give you I would have loved to give a very good example, very good a case where something like this happened, but there will be because of time. Well, let me just answer you. No, situation like just try to more things like this are what we refer to as gentleman's agreement. Try to sort it out within yourself. I don't think the except maybe it's not it's not going in towards the area of threat. Your life is not being threatened or your human rights is being interfered with. You can now sue based on the fact that your human rights is being interfered with. But if it's just based on that transaction alone, now just settle it within yourself that the law will not help you. The law does not aid illegalities. So that's what I can tell you. But in a situation where your life is being threatened or your right is being infringed on, then you can go to court. But if it is in respect to that, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing. The law will not protect you. Because first of all, you have a dirty hand, if I should put it that way. I am sorry, but if I should put it that way.
Sure, I understand.
All right,
No
yeah, well
problem. I
done,
really
well done.
appreciate
Just
it. Thank you.
I hope you resolve it. I hope you try to resolve it amicably. Try to resolve it amicably within yourself. But in a situation where your life is being threatened or your right is being infringed on, then of course you go to court.
All right, no problem. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Barrister Chima. Thank you, everyone. And this to bring to the notice of everyone that this session is recorded. So I'm going to provide the recording later on the group. I mean the Telegram group. So for those who were not, who didn't join early, you can get to listen to it all over again. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.